Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about my top 5 romances of 2021. I initially made a top 10 list, but honestly these 5 are just so stand out to the rest of the romances that I would like to just highlight them and just talk about them in this video. So I'm going to kind of put them in an order. First romance that I want to mention is There Are No Saints. This is part of the Sinners duet by Sophie Lark. I discovered Sophie Lark for the first time this year, like a lot of people did, and I absolutely love her as an author. She's fantastic. Her world building is always so great, and her romances are just 90% of the time very top tier, and this is no exception. The main thing that I love so much about this book is that Sophie Lark does a fantastic job of really making their romance believable. It's not just about the obsession of the hero, it is about why they would work together, regardless of who they are or what they do. So this is about Mara and Cole, and Mara is an up-and-coming artist. She is poor, she works a lot of jobs, and she comes from a very abusive family with kind of a past that we don't really understand or know a whole lot about, but we do get some indication that it was pretty dark. Cole is someone who we don't really, again, get a lot about him in general. We just know that he is a psychopath and that he is a billionaire artist who is pretty famous and has this artist rival. And what people don't know is this rival in the art scene is also his rival in serial killings. Now, Cole doesn't really believe that this rival is his rival. His name is Shaw. He doesn't really believe that Shaw is a rival to him. He very often tells Shaw that he is out of control, he's impulsive, very stereotypical sociopath, whereas Cole prides himself on being a psychopath. He's very organized and he doesn't have to kill, he does it because he wants to, whereas he feels like Shaw does it because he has no impulse control, and so Cole feels very above him, and that really bothers Shaw. One day after an art exhibit where Shaw sees what he thinks is Cole taking interest in Mara, he kidnaps Mara and leaves her as a present for Cole, hoping that he will lose control after this. Unbeknownst to him, Mara didn't really catch his eye. He actually, when he first saw her, thought that she was dirty and that she was poor and that she was less than because she was poor. But through this present leaving and the subsequent things that happen after that, Cole quickly becomes obsessed with Mara and he offers her studio space to do her art, and he promotes her in the art scene. 5 stars. It's so good. Their romance is so fantastic. Everything that you would want to see from a psychopath romance, from like seeing the hero or one half of the romance displaying those nurturing elements, those like we're in a partnership elements, you see that here. You see Mara actually showing why she would work in a long-term relationship with a psychopath, and we get a lot of understanding about them, mostly in the second book, but I think the first one, if you really like obsessive heroes who just like cross all of the boundaries, then you will really like. The next romance that I want to talk to you about is Wicked Intentions. This is the first book in the Maiden Lane series, and I absolutely adored this. I don't need to say that these are all 5 stars, but I'm probably going to repeat that at least 1,000 times. But this is about Lazarus and Temperance, and Temperance owns an orphanage in St. Giles, which is like this crime-ridden area. And one day she goes into her parlor, she sees Lazarus there, and he makes a deal with her that she will introduce him to people that could help him find out what happened to his murdered mistress, and he will introduce her to patrons to fund her orphanage. Temperance is so headstrong, and a recurring theme within this is that she's doing everything that she's doing to atone for what she feels like is a sin of her past, and Lazarus is this like rakish character who would never settle down, and he is just enamored with Temperance. He wants to get under her skin and under her skirt, and their relationship is fantastic. I love the vibes of this, like the gritty, like vigilante, because there's like a Batman vigilante plotline running through this, like the gritty St. Giles, going through all these different areas, like the murder mystery investigation. It's just so interesting, and I think it's everything that I would want out of a historical romance. I think if you are a dark romance fan and you want to get into historical romance, this is like a fantastic place to start. So now we're getting into the hard parts of my top 3. I don't know where I would place these, so we'll start with this one. I guess this is in my 3rd spot. We have Devil in Spring by Lisa Kleypas. This is the 3rd book in the Ravenel series, and this whole series follows the Ravenel family. She is a twin. She has another sister who's her twin, and then an older sister. And in the beginning of this, Pandora is very much a wallflower. She never wants to be married. She wants to run her own board game business, and she is incredibly intelligent, but she's also always felt a lot of pressure from society to conform and be the lady that she isn't really. And so in the beginning of this one, we see her at a ball, but she's in the corner jotting in her notebook ideas for board games. And one of her friends comes up to her and says, "I lost an earring while I was rendezvousing with one of my ex-suitors. Will you go into the carriage house and get it so that I don't get compromised, like someone sees me coming out of there a second time and they know what's going on. So can you go get this earring for me?" Pandora says, "Sure." And so she goes out to this carriage house and she finds the earring down the back of a settee, and as she's leaning over, she gets caught and it starts ripping her dress. So Gabriel comes in and he helps her get out, and of course they're compromised. Someone sees them on the settee, like, you know, in a compromising position. So they are now forced to have a marriage of convenience, or get married rather. And I absolutely fucking loved this. This and the other 2 in my top are the most beautiful romances that I've ever read, most beautiful relationships. The thing that I loved about this in particular is that Pandora is given so much agency, and I've said this so much since I've read this book, but from the Ravenel family, from Devin, who is for all intents the patriarch of the Ravenel family, from Gabriel himself, and from Gabriel's family, the St. Vincent's, they all understand who she is, that she doesn't want to be tied down legally, that she has these ambitions, and they are going to give her the choice. In the beginning of the book, after they get compromised, she goes to Devin. Devin says, "I'm not going to make you marry someone that you don't want to. Like, fuck reputation. We're not going to put our reputation above those that we love. And so you can decide for yourself whether you want to marry him or not." And then Gabriel's family kind of says similar things. Basically, his father comes to him and says, "We'll just pay someone to marry her if you don't want to marry her, but I think that you should give it a shot." At this point, Gabriel is already incredibly interested in her. From their first encounter, she's a weird girl. She's different. She's not proper at all. And she just like has no filter when she talks. So they say, give her a chance and invite her to our summer home, like our vacation home, and you guys can spend a couple of months there, get to know each other, and then we'll decide from there. And of course, they have a romance, and Gabriel is just mystified by her. He doesn't understand his attraction. He doesn't understand why in particular she's the one that he's enamored with. He would never go for a woman like her. She's, you know, a wallflower. And so he doesn't get it, but he just is obsessed with her mind and how smart she is and how she has no filter. She says whatever she wants, but she also has like these deep anxieties, and he just is so wrapped up and in love with her, and he does so much for her. Her biggest concern, even though she's falling in love with him, is that she will lose everything, because as soon as they get married, any businesses that she has now going forward will all be signed away to him, and he'll be able to make all of the decisions. Even her marriage vows say that she will obey him, and she doesn't like that. She's not comfortable with that, and so he goes to the ends of the earth to make sure that she is comfortable and that she has everything that she wants. And it's just an absolutely beautiful relationship that I love it. Like, I love it. It's the best Lisa Kleypas book I've ever read. Best historical romance I've ever read. Top 3 favorite romances, well, top 4, because I don't have Birthday Girl on this list, but just absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend this series. Just perfect. I have 2 here that I just don't know which one I like more, and I think I'm not going to decide. But I am going to talk about one of them first, obviously. We have Rush by Brianna Hale. What is there to say about this absolute beauty of a book? This is about Rush and Dree. And in the beginning of the book, Dree was a choreographer and she had a previous experience working with a band, and she was in a relationship with the band's leader, and they fucked her over. They destroyed her, put her through some very traumatic experiences. And so when Rush sees one of her the choreography of one of her videos, he wants her to choreograph one of his music videos, but she has decided that she's never going to do that again, and she's never going to work with a rock group again. And he has to convince her, and this is a daddy kink book with a little bit of age play, just a little. She sucks her thumb and she holds a teddy bear, but that's kind of the extent of it, and it is a new kink for both of them. Neither of them have really experienced a relationship like this, a sex life like this. Communication and the respect and adoration they have for each other is absolutely beautiful. If one of them wants to do something, there's no judgment, there's no brushing it off. They're like, hell yeah, let's give it a shot. It's beautiful. There's nothing else that I can say. It's just, they really view each other as a partnership. They are in it till the end with each other, and they just respect the hell out of each other. Rush is definitely a soft daddy. He's very caring, and he takes care of Dree, and he's very loving. And Dree is definitely a more bratty character, and their relationship, I just can't say it enough. It's beautiful, and the partnership that they have with each other and making each other feel safe and assuaging each other's anxieties and just going into this very new situation with love and compassion is, again, just beautiful. The reason that I have to put this as, I guess, my top is because it made me hella emotional. I've already read it twice this year, and it just, that is Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in the Hot and Hammered series. This is a marriage in trouble romance between Rosie and Dom. Dom is a veteran, and he was already with Rosie when he came back from Afghanistan. They have been together since they were teenagers. As the years go on, they lose touch with each other. Rosie feels unloved. She feels like the only attention that she gets is in the bedroom, and Dom never saw the fact that she wants to get divorced coming. So in the beginning, she's working at her job at the mall, and she gets hit on by a guy. And this is sort of a wake-up call for her. Not that she wanted to be with the guy. The only person she wants to be with is Dom, but she realizes that she doesn't get the love and affection that she needs. So she goes to him and says, I want a divorce. And he said, I'll do anything to keep you. And so they start going to marriage counseling. I related so hard to Dom. I related to his alpha personality, his boys don't cry personality, the keep everything in, the survivor's guilt that he feels. I just understood him. He didn't know how to express his feelings. He didn't know how to tell Rosie how much he loved her. He just knew how to show her. And in his mind, showing your love was support. And Rosie says, I need more than that. I need words. And that's their relationship growth, is them learning each other's love language and learning of the things that they have kind of let slip in their marriage. And there's this deeply, deeply impactful moment when Rosie realizes in therapy that she is just as guilty of letting things in their marriage slip as Dom is, and his reaction to her feeling hurt is so heartbreaking. And you can just feel the love and respect that they have for each other, and watching two people that are truly soulmates come back together is just beautiful. And watching them want the best for each other and realizing that they don't want anybody else and that they are soulmates it's just beautiful. I don't know what to say. So this has probably been the year that I've read the most romance since I started reading again. I was never really someone who read all romance. I usually read, you know, fantasy romance or whatever. And then last year I started my romance journey, and this year has just been full-fledged romance. I've read occasionally fantasy here and there. Something that this year has taught me, specifically with these three books, and like my top 5, is that something that's massively important to me is agency in the relationship. It's respect and adoration for each other, and that puzzle piece romance where you can feel the respect and love that each couple has. As much as I love the angsty bully romances that are just intense, petty shit, I really love this. Like, I love love, I love soulmates, I love respect, and just true, deep love. And yeah, that's what this year has taught me. And that's not to say that I'm not going to read, you know, the over-the-top ridiculous books, because I most certainly will, and I love them the same. But these books are just, there's something different. There's just something different that I can't explain. So, all right, so let's talk about my honorable mentions, and then we will wrap the video up. So some honorable mention: The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the second book in the Davabad trilogy, and I absolutely love this. This is a fantastic Middle Eastern inspired fantasy series, and in the first one you are following Nahiri, who is living in Cairo, and she's using her abilities to con people out of money. And then one day she accidentally summons a jinn, and the jinn tells her that she has magical abilities, which she already knew, and that she should go to the city of Brass where these jinn live. And she is deeply enmeshed in the history of this city, and this is the second book. It's following 5 years after the events of the first one. And this is just a beautiful series. The world building is gorgeous, the writing is lyrical, and the character development is fantastic as well. And I'm super excited to get into the third one. Then we have Black Sun by Rebecca Ronhorse. This is a pre-Columbian story. You are following 5 or 4 points of view, and it all takes place in this city of Tova. One of the points of view is a watcher, and they are like a church presiding over these clans of people, and the Watchers are a strongly disliked group in the city of Tova, so she is being threatened. And then you're also following a point of view of a bodyguard for an up-and-coming clan's leader after his mother passed away. You're also following the point of view of someone that is very important to the clans, unbeknownst to him, and he also has some magical abilities, but he is traveling to Tova to complete a task. And then your last point of view is just kind of like this sailor who runs her own crew, and she gets paid a certain sum of money to cart the man from that city to Tova. And the way that these points of view weave together is fantastic. Each point of view is so important and impactful that there is never a point of view that you don't want to read from, that you don't think is important to the story. Another favorite that I have is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is essentially a fictionalized R. Kelly story. In the author's note, Tiffany D. Jackson does say that this is not exactly an R. Kelly situation. It's just a common story that young Black girls are put into when they are put in abusive situations, and then no one really listens or believes them or tries to protect them. But this is about Enchanted, has always wanted to be a famous artist, a singer, and she enters into this singing competition where she meets Corey Fields, who is a popular, world famous singer, R&B singer. I think he does R&B, and they enter into a relationship. She is 17 and he is in his mid to late 20s. And the relationship quickly becomes manipulative and abusive, and you are following up to the events of when she wakes up and her hands are covered in blood and Corey is dead on the ground. It's gut-wrenching and emotional, and Tiffany D. Jackson is fantastic at connecting you to characters like that, and her language is so intentional, and you honestly feel what the character is going through. You feel for them, and even though you know that this crime has possibly been committed by your main character, you feel nothing but compassion and empathy for them. And I just love her writing. I think when she writes thrillers like this, they're just always a hit, and this one was no exception. And then the last honorable mention that I have is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. If you have read a Fredrik Backman before, you are very familiar with his whimsical but emotional writing. And this one is essentially following several points of view of people that are involved in a bank heist turned hostage situation, and two of the points of view that you are following is a cop and his father, and then you're following some people that are inside of the bank heist, or inside of the hostage situation rather, in addition to the person that attempted to rob the bank. It is deeply emotional. I will say it is a little over dramatized. The characters can feel a little bit like a caricature of the author's intentions behind their character, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. There's a character in here that as soon as you find out her backstory, I started sobbing. Like, the whole thing is just very touching and emotional, and I highly recommend, if you haven't checked out a Fredrik Backman before and you are looking for something that is intentional, impactful, but also hopeful without having those overstated and those intentions that punch you in the face that want to teach you a life lesson, he's definitely the one to go to. I really liked this one, and I think everybody should read it. So those are all of my favorites of 2021. Make sure you comment your thoughts down below on any of the favorites that I talked about, or any of your favorites. I would love to hear them. Other than that, I will catch you guys in my next one. Thanks so much for watching.
Sitting in silence, we still feel the vibe. You could not say a word, and I know what you just decided. We'd be right in the same wave. All the water's perfect.